Good afternoon, good evening, good night. My name is Talon, aka OrangeYosh, and welcome to Wikipedia Randoms. This is the series where I dive into random Wikipedia articles and I tell you all about it. Let's get right into it. Now, getting right into it is Express Music. I found this randomly. Express Music was a name for a brand of Nokia mobile phones specially designed for music. They came with expandable microSD cards and music keys, so these phones could be used as MP3 players. The Express Music brand of Nokia phones were launched in September 2006, my birth month, to compete with the Walkman series from Sony. Approximately 3 years later, in September 2009, Nokia announced a new brand of phones, the X series line. This line of phones later replaced the X Music brand. They were officially discontinued in 2010. The 2006-2007 lineup of Express Music consisted of the 3250, 5300, and 5700 models. Justin Small designed the music services and was a strong believer that the Spotify model would be incredibly beneficial in the growth of the brand. In 2008, the first 3G lines of Express Music were released. This lineup also added support for micro SDHC, which meant cards larger than 2 gigabytes could be used. In 2009, the lineup consisted of 6 different devices. It started with the Nokia Express Music 5800, which costed $31 USD, which used a touch-based screen new to the Nokia model. This was followed up by the 5130, 5630, 5330, 5730, and lastly the 5530. Out of all of these options, the most expensive is the 5730 at $183 US. The cheapest is the 5800 at $31 US. The other two are anywhere from $67 to $146 US. I could only find these priced in Indian rupees, so keep in mind the discrepancies that could occur from currency translations. Church of St. Anthony of Padova, Cuxitao. I found this one randomly. This is one of many Roman Catholic churches sharing the same name, the Church of St. Anthony of Padova. I found 6 separate Wikipedia pages for these churches, each one for a different location. This one is in the city of Cuxitao, which is in the northern part of Kazakhstan. This church is built in a neo-Gothic style and is dedicated to Anthony of Padua, as the name implies. This is where the deanery of the church resides. The church was constructed from 1992 to 1997 and was consecrated in 1999. For the majority of the 1960s and 70s, the Catholic community secretly gathered to escape the oppression from the Soviet government. After the USSR fell, the Catholic Church in Kazakhstan was able to return to normal operations once again. On October 6, 1992, the church was founded to fulfill the needs of various different Catholic branches in the city. The first Mass was celebrated on Christmas Eve of 1995, in the basement of the church. In 1997, the church held a statue of Our Lady from Fatima from Portugal. On September 19, 1999, the Church of St. Anthony of Padua was officially consecrated by Bishop Jean-Paul Lenga and Bishop Marian Florzak, among many others. Frank Packard found this randomly. Born on June 11, 1866, Frank Lucius Packard was a prominent Ohioan architect. He attended the Delaware Public School and later attended Ohio State University as well as MIT. He worked for 2 years in New York City as an architectural firm. After returning to Columbus, he merged his own office with his friend and business partner, Joseph W. Yost, forming the Yost and Packard firm. At that time, both architects were deep at work on projects for Ohio State University, with Packard working on the Hayes Hall and Yost working on the Orton Hall. Both of these are still standing today on the OSU campus. In 1895, Packard joined AIA, the American Institute of Architects. He's one of the founders of the Columbus Society of Architects in 1908. In 1900, the Yost and Packard partnership was dissolved and Packard relocated back to New York. For the remainder of his life, he worked as a private practitioner. Packard was active in Republican politics and was well connected with many powerful politicians. He was responsible for the large front porch design of Warren G. Harding's Marion residence. In 1922, Harding appointed Frank Packard as official architect of the United States Pavilion in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. This building is now replaced by a new embassy built in 1952. For many years, he was on the board of directors for the Columbus Chamber of Commerce. He was president of the organization from 1919 to 1920. In 1892, he married Ava Lena Elliott, but had no children. Frank L. Packard died suddenly at the age of 57 on October 26, 1923. Even-toed ungulates. And yes, technically I searched this one up. I typed in E and it showed up. The even-toed ungulates are hooved animals which bear weight on 2 of their 5 toes, with the others either absent, vestigial, or pointed posteriorly. Contrarily, the on-toed ungulates bear weight on either 1 or 3 of their toes, but we'll cover them in the next episode. Even-toed ungulates generally digest cellulose, aka their food, in 1 or more stomach chambers, as opposed to inside their intestines. Advances in biology have found that cetaceans fall into this branch of taxonomy, meaning they are closely related to hippopotamuses. For those silly goobers who didn't know, such as myself before this video, cetaceans are a type of aquatic mammal which include whales, dolphins, and porpoises. The roughly estimated 270 species that make up the even-toed ungulates include deer, giraffes, camels, goats, sheep, and pigs. The oldest known even-toed ungulate fossils to exist date back to nearly 53 million years ago in Europe, Asia, and North America. The best known and best preserved member of this era is the Diacodexis, an extinct species of small herbivores. The classification of artiodactyls was widely debated because of the fact that the cetaceans evolved from the land-dwelling even-toed ungulates. This defines the Artiodactylia typically as a paraphyletic taxon. In the 1990s, systemics used biology and morphology to classify organisms. They did this by sequencing DNA and RNA from an organism and comparing it to other living beings. The first scientists to come across the conclusion that cetaceans and even-toed ungulates were closely related were Dan Grauer and Desmond Higgins. In 2001, the fossilized limbs of 2 cetaceans were discovered in Pakistan. They are traced back to about 48 million years ago. These findings proved a theory that ancient cetaceans were more terrestrial than originally suspected, and that the special ankle bone originally thought to be unique to only even-toed ungulates were also found in early cetaceans. This cladogram shows that the relative dated furthest back in time are pigs, camels, and their relatives. Also appearing during the Ocean period are cetaceans, including whales and dolphins. Giraffes come after the cetaceans, along with deer not too long after. The most recent of the bunch are cattle, such as sheep and goats. 4 families of even-toed ungulates have some type of horns. There are 2 noticeable toothy trends when it comes to Artiodactylia. The pig and hippopotamus families both have a relatively large number of teeth, and the upper canines teeth are often enlarged and used as weapons when it comes to Artiodactylia. They have a good sense of smell and hearing, but don't have the greatest eyesight. Most often, they have sectioned stomachs split into 3 or 4 parts. This allows them to regurgitate certain things in the form of cud and chew it till later use. The social behavior of even-toed ungulates vary depending on the species. Artiodactylia live in nearly every habitat, but thrive in open places, such as grasslands. Some even-toed ungulates seasonally migrate, and most mark their territory with urine or feces. Depending on their size and habitat, Artiodactyls have different natural predators. Several carnivores, such as crocodiles, bears, and lions, prey upon them. Parasites carried by Artiodactyls include fleas, lice, and nematodes, but generally only have effects when infestation is severe. A long time ago, in the Neolithic times, we hunted Artiodactyls. We did this for food, fur, and to use their bodies as tools or weapons. The domestication of these species began around 8000 BCE, typically for food, but around 5,000 years later, we started using them for work activities. In today's world, we usually keep Aerodactyls for meat, milk, fur, or sometimes entertainment in the form of petting zoos and such. Thank you so very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Good afternoon, good evening, good night, fellas. I'll see you in the next video. Be sure to like and subscribe.